Hello everyone and welcome to Brainz Roundtable with me, your host, Mihal. Today we're bringing together a group of entrepreneurs to explore something that sits behind every business, every success story and every decision. Yes, of course, I'm talking about mindset because we often hear about things like strategies, growth tactics and systems. But behind all of those things is the way we think, the way we can handle stress and unprecedented challenges, and of course, the way we keep going when things get tough. So today we'll be talking about wins, losses, confidence, resilience, and everything in between, and other mentalities that shape an entrepreneurial mindset. So let's dive in and meet today's panel.
Hi, I'm Sonya Black. I'm a psychotherapist, a coach, a trained family mediator. I've been practicing for about 20 years, and I'm also founder of my company, CBT in Partnership, which I set up about 7 or so years ago. And predominantly I'm a trauma therapist, but overall working with people to help them to heal, to deal with life's challenges, and to live their best life. You can find me on my socials, and that's all Sonya CBT on Instagram, and my website, Sonya CBT as well.
Hi, I'm Moa Lundstrom. I'm a counselling psychologist, and I founded the London practice in London together with my business partner Lee Valls. So we've been in business for about 10 years now, and it's a private psychotherapy clinic. We have 4 physical sites in London. So that's where we work from, but I've worked probably more on the business today than I do as a clinician. I'm trained existentially, so I sort of like to think about philosophy and sort of the bigger questions, the meaning of life and death. So you can find us on Instagram, The London Practice, and same with our website, thelondonpractice.com.
Hi, I'm Jagroop Sahi, and I've co-founded 2 businesses. One is Kind. It's an online marketplace that lists ethical, conscious, sustainable children's brands. So we're trying to clean up the children's industry because we believe that safety should be the standard. You can find us on kiddykind.com or on Instagram and at TikTok. And then I also have a food hall in Ladbroke Grove in London, and there we've created 5 stalls in what used to be an off-licence to champion the independent local traders and to celebrate the diverse flavours of London. And you can find that on Instagram and TikTok.
Nice. Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm super excited to have you all. So, Sonya, I'm going to kick off with you and get us started and ask you, what mind shift has had the biggest impact on your own entrepreneurial journey?
I think, it's about just taking the first step. It's building from that base. It's just actually saying, let's just get started. Let's see what I can do. And then you've got that evidence base. For me, it felt like just that grounding, that base where I can start to build from. So first of all, it was just about setting up private practice, and step by step, it's been about building that so that it meets clients' needs more and more. Whatever comes up, it organically grows from clients that I work with.
I was really excited when I heard you were talking specifically about the mindset behind entrepreneurship, because I've thought about it a lot, and to me, I bring it back to sort of the place I grew up. You hear a lot about these stories, sort of, I came from poverty and I was so driven and I just had to get out of there. And people have a sort of sense of moving forward because they want to escape something. And to me, I grew up in very sort of humble beginnings. But I grew up in a small town in northern Sweden, and everyone were the same. There weren't that many fancy, interesting, different jobs, but people had a good life. So you could work, in the supermarket as a librarian or a teacher, a nurse, and have a really good life and living in nature. So to me, I've always felt entirely unafraid to take risks. I don't feel like I can sort of fail because if everything goes completely wrong, I can move back home and have a really good life. So I think it's given me a sense of, I suppose, comfort and just knowing that I have all of this to lose potentially, but if I did, it wouldn't really matter because I could move back home.
I love that. I'm curious to hear you now.
Yeah, no, I think it's similar to what you said. You mentioned something about failure there. And I think it's just the way you reframe what that means. Because I think every day as an entrepreneur, actually, you fail at something. You know, you might send an email, go for an opportunity, you might not get it, have an idea that doesn't quite come together as you imagined. So I think it's actually that mindset of, like you said, first just kind of putting yourself out there. It doesn't matter. There's never that ideal time to be ready. Just go for it. And alongside that, it's that idea of shaping failure as something different, because failure doesn't mean that you've actually failed. It means that you've tried, you've learned, and now you can do something else.
I'm going to stay with you now because I'm curious to know what you think, what separates entrepreneurs who are successful and ones that just give up too early. Is there a key, or is there something that you've noticed?
Yes, so you mentioned it's the ones who give up really early. Entrepreneurship. I think there's this false sense of security, especially in today's society, that when you start a business, everybody has overnight success. But actually, a lot of people's overnight success is 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, and everybody's journey is different. So I think it's the ones that just keep going and getting up and trying every day, whether it takes you 5 years to have that big break where you go viral or something changes, or whether that takes 20 years.
And I would add to that, not expecting success.
Yes.
Because it took a really long time before I could earn a good living of my company. And I was prepared to, I thought, okay, first of all, most businesses fail.
Yeah.
Most businesses take years to earn a profit. So I had that mindset going into it from the start. And we actually did really well right from the start. But I was expecting it to not go all that well.
Yeah.
So anything else was just positive. And I think you need to be prepared to just not have so much. And if you want sort of like, when it comes to money and salary from the start, if that's what you need, you're going to really, I think it would be a struggle for most people. I think you have to be comfortable with having little. Yes. From the start.
And I think also, just like what you said there, it's also not linking the outcome of the decisions you make to your personality, to take, like taking it personally, to try and kind of separate the two. So if something doesn't go quite well in your business, you're not actually having that as a reflection on yourself or your own value, so that you can keep going.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it's understanding motivations for doing it, I think, because success is so subjective.
Yes.
It's very, very personal, those parameters of what success are about. And I think for me, it was about wanting to be able to work and to be present for my children. And be able to turn up at all the sports days, be able to turn up at all of those things for them. It wasn't about making lots of money. And then more and more, especially after COVID, I realised actually I really want to make this really accessible for lots and lots of people. So the motivation shift and change and alter, and therefore the business needs to alter.
I love that. And I want to piggyback off something you said. You know, like success doesn't reflect, the success of your business doesn't reflect you and your personality. But guys, I want to know, like, how do you personally handle fear or uncertainty when it comes to making really big, important business decisions? Because you mentioned risk earlier. I'm curious to know how you guys handle that.
I think you just, it's definitely something you learn. I think in the first times you're doing something, you are very scared. Sometimes you might not put yourself out for opportunities due to the fear of being rejected. So it's something you have to, well, for me personally, I had to learn to get over that fear, the fear of being seen, being able to just own my own opinions, whether other people agreed or not. It's okay to be wrong as well, to be able to show people you can change your mind and be open to that. It's that fear of, I think when people look at entrepreneurs, it's like, oh, they have the answers to everything. But actually, we might not. We probably don't. And it's just being able to say that.
And it's sitting with uncertainty as well. You know, control is just an illusion that we all create in life by putting certain conditions in place. But when we realise that actually life is largely about tolerating uncertainty, not having 100% control. And that's what it is when you're working for yourself and, you know, you're setting those limits for yourself.
Maybe what's different for me, because I have a business partner, it's having that support and always having someone to talk to about these kind of decisions. So I guess that sort of takes the pressure off, and having, but even if you do things yourself, I think just having people around you in general, and you need to be able to have someone, whether that's your romantic partner or if it's your therapist or coach, just having someone where you can throw ideas around so you can sort of explore more than just within your own head.
Okay, and it's also maybe finding that balance as well, like, especially when there's two people like I believe this, they believe this. It's tough. And speaking of beliefs and going into things, what is one business belief that you had to unlearn as you became an entrepreneur that you really thought was like the truth the whole way, and you had to unlearn it as your career progressed?
I think probably for me, it was that I think before I became an entrepreneur, it's only been about 4 years now, but before I became that, I always looked at entrepreneurs with knowing that I just thought they knew things that I didn't know, or they knew how to do things. So I think for me, it was unlearning that sometimes you don't have to have all the knowledge. Sometimes you just have to be audacious and go after things, and the learning will happen on the job.
I love that, audacious. People aren't bold enough, and that's sometimes why businesses can fail. You need to be bold. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I think I'm incredibly happy to take risks. And I think just what I mentioned before, because I'm just not so scared of failing. But I think if it depends on when you start a business. Obviously, it would be different from each individual. And if I started at the point I am now, when I have kids and a mortgage, then it would be very different. So how do you sort of manage feeling okay to take risks when you actually have a lot to lose? I don't really have the answer to that.
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think for me, there was something about I'm just a psychotherapist. And actually, over a period of time, I realised that actually you can bring in help, you can bring in support for marketing, for social media, for other things that you need, but you learn so much along the way. It's just growth in so many different directions, in so many different ways. And it is difficult to juggle the pressures of you need to earn a certain amount and you need to be able to pay the mortgage and pay the bills. But you do sometimes have to just, sometimes think about it as base jumping. You've got your parachute on and you've just got to take that jump, because ultimately you know that you're going to be okay. You've got the skills, but you just need to take that leap.
And it's an interesting thing about outsourcing your jobs and which part of your jobs do you hand over to someone else. I think, so, we have accountants and we have like a practice manager and sort of admin to do the daily running of the clinic. And if I were doing those jobs, that would be like, I'm a psychologist. That's not how I wanted to do things. But then there are other things, like you say, you do your own marketing and that. But we've been sort of trialing with having different agencies and having different people on board. And then sometimes you sort of think it works, and then other times you go like, no, actually, I want to have the control of the narrative of my own company, and I want to sort of really be in charge of the message that we put out there. So I think just following maybe your interests in the kind of tasks you do want to dive into. Just you don't have to do everything, and I don't think you should do everything, but just do what you like and what you're passionate about.
Wise words, guys. Right now, there's a lot of pressure with, like, as you say, maybe marketing, for example, have to be on this social media side. I have to show up with this AI, Google, SEO. There's a lot of pressures in daily life. But entrepreneurs in particular put a lot of pressure on themselves. Everyone, you want to succeed. You want to be successful. And as you say, maybe your first endeavor isn't successful. Maybe the second isn't, but you've got lessons for the third. But where do you think that pressure comes from? And did you guys feel it as well when you first started out?
There's so much there, isn't there? I think as humans, we're programmed to look at other people, to look at social groups. We want to fit in. We've got this comparative brain. We've got this critical brain. And there's something about understanding ourselves in that and working on ourselves within that. And then we can just be really clear. The clearer we make our goals, the more likely we are to be able to achieve those goals. Having that vision, having that motivation.
And I think you can be completely driven, but I think you should ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve? Why am I trying to do it? So in terms of like, where's the pressure coming from? Am I trying to sort of prove myself? And to be honest, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't think you have to sort of like, well, I shouldn't do this, but I think you need to be a little bit mindful of it, and sort of, because if there's a sort of, well, I have to be better and I have to be better, I have to do more, and and there's a restlessness, and we all have that restlessness. So it's something, on a sort of not just to do with business, but to do with your bigger life. What are you trying to achieve? And I don't think you should, try to just sort of gain the esteem for no reason than maybe trying to understand yourself and sort of feeling it from the inside.
Yeah.
And I think, like what you said, we kind of externalize that validation a little bit. And I think, especially in this age of social media, where you're supposed to be building publicly, and I say supposed to be because sometimes you just don't want to, but it's as if you're not only being judged by now your customers who are benefiting from that. It's actually like the bigger circle, and then your immediate circle, your family, your friends. So I think that actually does, as well as kind of taking your validation from the outcomes of your business, I think you have to kind of start to detach those two. It's that other pressure of everybody kind of knows what you're doing and how your business is going.
I get it. And again, I'm piggybacking off a lot of what you're saying, but you mentioned earlier that behind an overnight success, there's 5-10 years of hard work and discipline. But I want to look at discipline versus motivation. What role does discipline in particular play compared to motivation, especially during those low times, those difficult times, those periods of just like, oh my God, should I give up? What role does discipline play over motivation?
I think it depends maybe on the problems you're facing. Like, should I give up or am I going through a hard time, and why isn't it working for me? Because, I sell a service. And it might be different if you sell a product, but ultimately, if no one is showing interest in what you have to offer, either they don't understand what you're actually trying to offer the world, and maybe you can work on the message there. But otherwise, is it useful? Do people want what you have? So in terms of sort of discipline and motivation, I think if you lack motivation for a long time, why would you continue? That's why, like, if you lose sort of your interest and passion, and consider your bigger picture and bigger life, why would you continue trying to do what you're trying to do?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? I think for me, motivation sits there with passion, which both of those are quite emotional things.
Yeah.
So that's because we care. We want to do something. It's the meaning, it's the purpose. It's the thing that keeps us going on the darker days. But the discipline is just there. Get up, it's raining, it's dark, go again. It's the training, if you like. It's the resilience to be able to just keep moving and keep going and follow the steps that you've set yourself, the plan that you've set yourself. Follow through each day.
I think for me, actually, discipline is probably what's driven my business. So I launched, both of the businesses actually started as I was pregnant with number 3. And if I had relied on motivation, I don't think I would be where I am now, because some days, like you're postpartum, it is the last thing on your mind, and you've got 3 young kids. So I think discipline is, for me, what I try and do is I have made a system where I have my non-negotiables. So it doesn't matter how I'm feeling that day. And I think that's the discipline element of it. So I have to do those things. And it might not be big things. It's not the new next feature. It's nothing exciting. But it's just what kind of keeps the business moving, ticking along. Okay, you've showed up. The newsletter's gone out. The blog's gone out. Just the core of it. And when it came to the physical premise, it's like, okay, are things actually moving there? So I definitely think discipline is needed for the days you don't have motivation. But I think it's like what you said, motivation is actually what then kind of drives your business, gives you the passion, the desire to really grow it and keep answering your why.
I have a fair amount of discipline in my sort of, in the other aspects of my life, like meditation or, going to the gym or going for a run, even if I don't feel like it. So, and I think that maybe sets up the mindset to be able to then sit down and do the work I need to do. But I do feel like if everything is complete drag, I might just postpone and
Yeah, you have to
again
trust
next
what
year.
it feels like. If it's not sitting good.
It's a bit like it's training a muscle, isn't it? You know, when
Yeah.
I've trained for races or runs and things, you just have to show up
Yeah.
and do what you need to do that day and get through. Some days you feel like you're really winning and you really, you know, I can run for hours and hours. Other days it's like I'll just get that K done today.
And it probably
feels like that.
Sorry, it probably kind of ties into
Yeah.
like you said, one of those days where some days everything goes well, and actually it
Yeah.
really gives you motivation for the next day. But then you have days where everything you try just doesn't work,
Yeah.
and probably that the next day you actually need the discipline to show up again because your motivation is so low because your day before
Yeah.
was just not very fun.
And it's a choice, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like people want to be happy,
Yeah.
but happiness is a choice. We have to choose that every day,
Yeah.
multiple times a day. And it's the same thing, I think, with motivation. You know, you have to choose that every day. You don't have to be there. You could be employed.
Yeah.
But flexibility. So what you mentioned before about failure. So those days where we might just feel like, oh my God, not today. Rather than like I'm quite good at listening to me, just like listening to what maybe I need for that day, and just like today is not the day where I'll try to tackle these things. I'm just gonna sort of be gentle with myself, and then not see that as a sort of like I absolutely have to, and sort of, you know, using the whip to get myself in that place, and then just sort of I don't fail if I don't show up on those days. I'm just sort of taking a break, and that's okay.
Guys, great words. I'm really, really loving this conversation. And on this topic of like discipline, and I'd love to dive into this idea of protecting your mental focus and clarity in a world that right now is just like social media app after another, or even just like notifications and emails and everything. How do you, is it a routine? Is it discipline again? But how do you protect your mental focus in a world that just seems full of notifications and demands?
I think it's a struggle, and sometimes I will be able to, you know, just put the phone down for an entire weekend, and then you leave like, oh my God, I had such a good weekend. And then other times it's just, you know, that sort of I'm just going to allow myself to just lie on the sofa and go, ah, and then but I can feel an immediate effect on my ability to think. And just having sort of 100 thoughts at the same time, and I go to bed, it's like, oh, that one, and just thinking. So with discipline, I haven't managed all that much, but I have managed from time to time to just don't have the phone in the bedroom. Try to have that kind of clearness, like wake up, make the kids breakfast, take them to school, and then when I come home and I've had my second coffee, that's when I can sort of like, okay, I'm in work mode now. That helps enormously, but I don't do it all the time, but I would like to.
Yeah, because life has demands, whether it be kids, whether it be dogs, for example. So yeah, protecting your peace and focus is important. And like you said, not everyone's got the answers, and we don't all need to, but it's great to hear everyone's input. What about you, Sonya? What would you say? How do you protect your mental focus?
I have structure throughout my day. I think it's the alarm goes off at a certain time, 7 days a week. And I structure my time throughout the day, whether it's for exercise, walking the dog, being with the children, my children, the children, and and then it's work time. But I think the beauty of being self-employed, and you know, being a solopreneur, you can work while dinner's on, or you can work while somebody's studying. Or you can be present for somebody for a couple of hours, then you can do a little bit more work. But it's just finding a system. I think the system part is really key, finding something that works for you, that fits with you. You know, sometimes I find myself taking a cup of coffee back to bed at 5:30 in the morning because I've woken up early with the birds. And I can sit there, have a cuddle with the dog and do some work. And that works. And that's the joy, I think, of being able to be self-employed. But I think the downside of that then is remembering you need mental rest, intellectual rest, and there are times you just have to take a complete break. And for me, that might be disappearing up a mountain or floating down a river on a paddleboard.
Or escaping to Italy.
So it's just finding the things that work best for you, and everybody's got their own way of doing that. But I think you have to remember most reels are 7 seconds. And we don't want to be on our phones too much because it just basically trains our brain to just keep the tabs open and to just keep that churn. So there is something about completely having those boundaries, having that space.
I think your point on routine is really. I moved house, so kids, new school, completely new area. We live in the countryside in Cheshire now, and I haven't still really found my routine. So like take the kids to school and then walk the dog and like so it takes a long time. And I had a really good routine before, and I've been like, that day I go there, and then it takes a long time. And that was one of the things that I first noticed and that I missed the most is like I have to find a routine because otherwise I can't really schedule things. I don't know when I'm doing things, and everything is just a bit like, oh, can you do that? Yeah, I'm free. And it's like, no, that was supposed to be that. So yeah, having like routine and a schedule, it just brings so much stability to your weeks. And then it makes it so much easier to then have kind of control of your time and be more efficient. And
yeah, and I think there's so many pressures. It's not just your business, there's everything else that's going on. And I think mine's slightly different. Our business is online. So actually that's, the sale comes in, things come in. I'm communicating with sellers. So my phone is with me a lot. So I think for me, it's sometimes just having those moments where I know, okay, the kids have come back from school now and it's dinner time. It's essentially like breaking up with your phone. Like you've got to put it over there, and doesn't matter what happens, you don't look at it. But then I also think like sometimes I'm up in the middle of the night because the baby's up, or that has been my experience over the last few years. So then you might find the best idea comes there, so you've got to note it down. So I think it's just about that balance, but also just giving yourself grace. So, and also starting to like understand that, okay, right now I need space for myself. It's kind of identifying that you're getting to that point where actually I need to step away now, or I need to go for a walk, or I need to have these minutes to myself to clear my head, just so that you can kind of come back from that and kind of probably go back into the real world and not the digital one.
It's so true. I call it the oxygen mask. You have to put your oxygen mask on like you do on an airplane before you can look after anybody else.
Yeah.
And it's just how you can't pour from an empty cup is the other phrase. And it's, that I think that's quite important, because otherwise it could be 24 hours a day.
It can be
7 days a week. Yeah.
And it doesn't stop. Like they programmed us, you just keep going and keep going. But you said something about routine and how important it is. And when you don't have it, you kind of feel off balance. Like me and my partner, we hate routine, but we need routine. Like we have a love-hate relationship. If we don't have things set in stone, we're all off balance. The house is uneven. And I really am like, I don't like being told what to do or where to go, but I need it. I'm a type of person that needs it. So when you said that, I totally got that.
The difference is in Sweden, your social life is on routine, and you schedule a meeting months in advance. And I'm much happier here when someone just say, hey, do you fancy going for lunch right now? It's like, yes, please. Yes. Or, going for a drink. It's not the same in Sweden.
I can vouch for you because I have Swedish friends, or even people who've moved to Sweden, and they will say, yeah, do you want to meet up in week 32? And I'm like, Googling under, like, hey, what week is week 32? Like, I miss just, hey, can I come around for a cup of tea? So, we need to make that happen in Sweden, guys. But we did talk about, like, maybe first and second businesses might not work, and maybe overnight success, who knows? But for anyone listening and watching right now on their journey, what advice would you give them when it comes to when do they know if it's time to pivot and change direction versus when should they keep going and hold tight and trust the process?
So I think in your business, you have to pivot all the time, is my take. But it's not you're not pivoting your why, you're pivoting your how. So you might have an idea. It's actually come up recently for me where I've got this roadmap in my mind and I thought I was going to be developing or working on this new feature next. But actually the audience is coming back and saying, they haven't said it, but I can see the gap. And it's like, no, let's go here. So actually something I was going to focus on from September, I'm actually not doing that anymore, and I'm going to focus on this instead. So I think there's always these kind of pivots. But I think when it's time to kind of pivot and change completely is probably when it's like what you said, when you're completely not motivated, it's completely draining you. It's not just a few days or a few weeks of, I can't be bothered. It's like, actually, I don't want to get up and do this, And then I think that's really being able to listen to yourself and say, this isn't working.
And it might come down to also like what you're actually trying to get out there. If you have something amazing that the world needs, but they just can't see it, like if you're creating a product or something that can really help people, and you're just struggling to get it out there, then, just keep going.
Yeah.
And but it's the motivation, it's the end goal. Like how is this sort of maybe helping the world? I think if someone is trying to build a business for the sake of just building a business, or or I want to be an entrepreneur, so I'm going to do this, and you can do that, and you can try things, and you can have ideas. But I think in those kind of, if you sort of try an idea and it doesn't lead anywhere, pivot, try something else. But if you have this sort of like really amazing thing that you just need to show the world, I think that's when you need to sort of try to just buckle in and
back yourself.
Yeah, it's having that vision, isn't it? It's staying true to the vision, staying true to your goals and what you're trying to achieve, but being flexible with that, being able to move with whatever's happening, whatever's there, staying with. And I think the evidence is something to stay with that as well. So like you say about the data, it's actually showing that customers want something else. So let's do that.
Okay, so adapt, be flexible, but when it comes to it, read the signs, listen to your gut. If it's feeling like a drag, if it's not feeling fun, move.
But to say that, some days, even if you're creating something amazing that you love, some days may not feel fun. Some days can feel like a drag. And I think when you go into entrepreneurship, everybody has their own skills and things they enjoy. And you might have to do some stuff that you don't really enjoy and you thought you would get away from by being an entrepreneur, but you don't. So I think it's just having that balance, knowing that some days will be a drag, but if you literally don't want to get out of bed because you've had enough of what you're doing and this really isn't working, it might be something to look at.
Yeah, something inside might be telling you something.
That's it.
But I think what you said there about, you might have to do things that you don't want to do or that you didn't expect leads me on to the next question of like, what's something that people consistently get wrong about being a successful entrepreneur that you've found that you're constantly correcting, or something that people are shocked or happy to hear?
I think one of the things that's come up many times for me, especially with family and friends who aren't entrepreneurs, is that they expect it to be like this really glamorous thing, and it's probably quite far from it. I know today we're all dressed up and looking like this, but 99% of the time I'm probably like no makeup, in my leggings, sitting behind a laptop. Like, it's really not that kind of glamorous, all these meetings and lovely things that go on. So I think that has been the biggest thing for me, like, oh, isn't it all just like work dinners and business meetings and networking? I'm like, no, not quite. Like, you have to put in the graft.
So glad
it is
you
long
said
nights.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure like a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs listening now, they probably are happy hearing that.
Yeah.
So anything else to add to misconceptions?
It's the long nights. I think it's the early mornings, the long nights, and it isn't the glamour, but it's actually what that's actually adding to your life, really.
Yes.
It's the flexibility that, for me, is the biggest motivation. I think it's being able to stay true to yourself with that as your rationale for being there in the first place.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a misconception. It's probably how people think it is, but having freedom of your own schedule. So I always say, like, I never work, but I always work. I have complete, if someone wants to meet up, like I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule, but I'm never fully not working. So if I go on holiday with my family, I'll be like, guys, I'm going away, but, I'm here. And I want to hear from people. If something isn't going right, I want to know about it, and I want to be able to. So there's always that kind of like being on call, sorting things out. Always and never works.
Always working, but never working.
I think I've heard that actually somewhere. People have said, look, I'm giving up my 9 to 5 for this flexibility. And it is flexible, but it becomes longer than that kind of 9 to 5.
It's the autonomy I think I love as well. It was sort of being able to meet clients' needs, being able to meet those needs, to be able to bend and flex around that and say, okay, we have a gap here. Perhaps somebody'd like an online course, or they'd like a resource that I can create for them, and you can just do it.
Yeah.
You mentioned like people may just want to be entrepreneurs for the sake of it, or people might have lots of brilliant ideas, but there's maybe a little bit of self-doubt creeping in, or they're struggling with how to get started. What would you say to someone who has an idea that they really truly believe in, but they're feeling scared, they don't know where to start? What advice would you give them here and now?
Don't compare yourself don't look at what other people are doing. If you do have to compare yourself down, or compare yourself to where you were before, or but don't look at like, oh, look at these like super entrepreneurs, and who am I to be here? Just do what you want, and sort of bring back. But when we can see each other as, you know, human beings, instead of everything that's on the surface, we're all going through the same things one way or another, and kind of be reminded of that.
I think kind of echoing what you said is just kind of start. Just start, take the first step, whatever that may be, kind of put it down on a piece of paper and just do that first step, and then do the second step. Because even as an entrepreneur, I think we were all there once with nothing, and it's only become to what it is because we took that first step. And it is very scary taking that first step. But if you do break it down into all those little steps, instead of looking at the big overwhelming picture, I think you kind of get there. And it's kind of backed by, during your journey, even you as an entrepreneur, get to a milestone and you don't even celebrate it because you've moved your milestone, whereas when you first started, it was here. So I think it's always that idea that no matter how much you do achieve on the journey, there's always more. So just start. Just start.
I agree with that. I think I very often think about it. The goal is up there and we're standing there looking at it. And, it, you know, ready is just a feeling.
Yeah.
It's actually starting to take that action, and then you've got the building blocks, and you actually are able to reach that goal and take those steps, and you've got the evidence along the way. And that gives you confidence, that gives you competence, which then gives you confidence, and you can take the next step up. But it's just that ready feeling can feel quite wobbly because it's a feeling.
Yeah. No, that like expecting to sort of feel ready, because how can you feel and know what to do if you haven't lived through it? So you have to live through it first and take that kind of, be happy to take that risk. And then once you live through it, and just even just knowing that and not expecting to like, well, now I'm like this, I should be in this particular way. Just like, no, you have to live through the experience first. Even like on a physical level in your brain, like you haven't done it. Yeah. So why can you expect to feel like you have?
No, I completely agree with that actually, and I think it's like what you said. When you take that first step, you're not ready, but it's through that learned and lived experience that actually you're ready then to take the next step. But without taking that first step, you would have never got there. Yeah. So it is. I think entrepreneurship is one of the biggest personal growth journeys you can ever go on. Yeah. And I think the person who took that first step is not the same person taking the 10th step.
I could listen to you guys all day. You each bring something so unique and individual to the conversation. It's been super fun, and I can't believe I'm going to ask you the last question of the round table, but this is something we actually ask every guest that we have, whether it's Brainz Talk, the podcast, or now the round table. And I want each of you to think about it before you answer, but it's, what mindset do you credit most for the success that you have today?
Risk-taking. Yeah, that's the one for me.
For me, probably like faith. Knowing, just have faith in myself to know that it will happen. Keep going.
I think it's the can do for me. If I can do this little bit, I can do that little bit. I can take the next step, and it's that can do. Okay, I can do this bit, so therefore maybe I can do the next bit. Or I can do the next bit, and maybe I can just do the next bit. And then that leads you on that growth, on that journey.
Incredible stuff. Guys, thank you so much. I feel inspired. I feel motivated after this chat. I really appreciate you all being here. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone listening, to everyone watching. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.